What I want you to do right now is take those hands of yours, warm them up, and put them together for Ali Shabaz. So tell us about yourself. We'll start the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, thanks first for having me here. I think it's been hearing some amazing stories from all of you, why you're sad and so on and so forth. It's really a good gathering. Yeah, I'd love to talk about myself, but any particular points you want me to start from?
We start and then we'll take it from there.
Okay.
Who is Ali Shabaz?
Okay, cool. Yeah, so just a bit of a background. I'm from India, as you would have guessed already. Lived better part of my life in India, but also a huge part of my life in Singapore. So the last 17 years I've been there. I come from a city called Chennai, Tamil Nadu. If you know India, most of you I think know India. One of four kids, the last of four boys. So it was pretty chaotic in that way growing up. I lost my dad when I was 16 years old. He was a doctor, a pretty good one at that. He was a doctor, but he was not a practicing doctor. He was a professor in one of the medical colleges. I lost my mother pretty recently, 3 months ago. So it was pretty chaotic growing up in a household where you have a mother, and I think I was about 16 years old. So the world suddenly opens up when you're 16 years old and you don't have a father figure, and my dad isn't around. And I was just getting into college. I'm just trying to tell you how I got into where I got into, which is advertising. So it was never a planned move to get into advertising ever. I studied mathematics in college. So the question I'm always asked is why advertising? The answer is it was purely accidental, because I think at some point in my 16 years and I'd finished my college, I was pretty convinced that academics wasn't for me anymore. I was into theater and I was into writing and I was into all kinds of things but academics. Right. So the interesting story, if you will, about how I got into advertising is, like I said, it was an accident because I had a good friend of mine who was already in advertising, and I used to go to the advertising agency to visit him. It was an agency called Ogilvy. Some of you may know about this.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So I used to go to visit him, and in those days, and when I say those days, I give away probably how old I am actually. So I'm talking about 25 years ago. Advertising, even in India, was a pretty wild profession to be in. So just to give you an idea, when you walk into an agency, what you see is a cloud of smoke, because a lot of people would smoke in the office at that point, and you see a lot of people with pads and notebooks in their hands.
And they're not just smoking cigarettes, right?
I don't know if it's legal to talk about things like that here, but let's just say that it's a thin line. Yeah. It's a thin line between tobacco and what was put into the cigarette, I suppose. But so that was how it was in that place. I used to go and visit him, and he would be sitting with his notebook in his hand, with his feet up on the table, lost in thought. And I found that quite fascinating. I would ask him, "What are you doing?" And he would say, "I'm just thinking of names for a product." I said, "Really?" I mean, yeah, that's what he does all day. I mean, that was his task at that time. I said, "So you actually get paid for that?" He said, "Yeah, I get paid for that." So,
And
like
a
I
lot
said,
of money.
quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not bad.
For a name.
Exactly.
For
And
coming
when
up with
you're
names.
when you're 21 or so and you're looking at that, you're going like, man, that's what I want to do. Yeah, that can't be too difficult. So anyway, long story short on that, I used to go there quite often, and I got quite friendly with the creative director, who pretty much runs the creative department in an agency. And at some point I said, hey, I'd like to join. And because by that time I'd become like furniture in the agency. I used to come every day and smoke a few cigarettes myself and go back and so on and so forth. But anyway, so I said, hey, I'd like to join, and he didn't take me seriously. He said, okay, fine, I'll give you a copy test, because I am a copywriter now. Give me a copy test. So I said, what is that? And he said, you take 10 ads in a newspaper or a magazine that you don't really like, and you redo them the way you would. And you take 10 that you like and tell me why you like them. And he disappeared. Thought probably I'm not going to show up after that. But I actually did it. I actually took those 10 newspaper ads and magazines, cut them out, created whatever I had to, and I said why I liked them, why I hated them. And I went to the bookstore. This man called David Ogilvy, who actually started Ogilvy, had written a book called Ogilvy on Advertising, which was basically the sort of Bible to everybody who joined advertising in those days. So I picked it up from the bookstore, looked at how I should do this, and I wrote it all down and I handed it back to him. And he called me about 3 days after that and said, I want to see you. And I said, man, this sounds good. So I show up in the agency, and the first thing he asked me is, did you read Ogilvy on Advertising? I said, yeah, I did. He said, this is shit. This is really bad. The work you've done is crap. So anyway, it was very interesting because he said, look, I want to hear what you have to say about the ads, not what Ogilvy has to say about it. I want to hear your point of view on the ads. So I redid the whole thing. And while he offered me a job in another city called Bangalore, he liked what I did. I couldn't take it up because the money was really not working out. But I used the same copy test to get a job in another agency. So it turned out well. I've been in advertising all my life. To Chennai for 6 years. Then I moved to a country that's pretty close to us, Oman, for about a year and a half.
So which agency did you get into?
In Oman?
No, in India.
Oh, in India, it's an agency called Lintas. Now
Okay.
it's called Low.
Yeah.
And that was about 6.5 years. Then I moved to Oman in a place called Adink, which still exists, by the way, for about a year and a half, where work wasn't really good or challenging, let me put it that way, but it was a great life. And I was single then, and I mean, I have my wife in this room, so I shouldn't be saying too much. But, paid a lot of money and got to travel the world. I backpacked in Europe a bit and so on and so forth. It kind of opens your mind up to a lot of stuff. But then I figured that career-wise, it wasn't going anywhere. So I quit Oman, which was really hard to do in those days. I don't know how it is now because they hold your passport back and all kinds of things, which I wasn't used to really, but I managed to somehow get away.
How many years there? 1 year?
A year and 2 months or so. And I landed up in Dubai actually. And I worked in, again, Lintas in Dubai for about 6 months. Didn't like it much in terms of work, but great life because, again, still single, a lot of money, nothing to do. Played pool all night, all of those things happened. Staying with a friend of mine in a bachelor accommodation, so we watched movies all night. It was good. But I realized it wasn't really moving my career because, advertising wasn't the place to be. I mean, it wasn't a career of choice in Dubai. So I went back to India for 2 years. Then I have no idea why, but one fine day I decided to go to Singapore and try my luck because Singapore was doing much better work in terms of advertising. It was the cutting edge at that point. Landed up there with my, what we call a portfolio in advertising, all the work that
you went there without a job?
I went there without a job, yeah. I had a friend, and in those days, you were allowed to stay for 15 days in Singapore with a visa, and then you were kicked out. I think here it's a little longer now if you don't have a job. So in 15 days, I was there, walked up and down the agencies, and lucked out basically. An agency looked at my work and they liked me. It was called BBDO, still called BBDO. So I joined BBDO in Singapore in 2000. And for the last 17 years, I've been there. Got married when I was in Singapore. My kids were born in Singapore. And just last year, I moved to Dubai with the same agency. Now I work for an agency called Grey. So I worked with the same agency, got transferred to Dubai.
So you were in BBDO for how long?
5 years.
And then you moved to Grey?
No, then I moved to another agency called JWT, another 5 years. And then I moved to Grey in 2010.
Okay.
And I've been there ever since, doing what I do in advertising. And now I'm in Dubai.
Lovely. Your mom, how has she been an influence? I mean, after dad passed away.
Yeah, I mean, massively, I think, because, like I said, we have 4 boys. My oldest brother was just getting into work.
Where are they now?
So my oldest is in Canada.
Okay.
My second brother is in the US. Third one is in Oman. Pretty close, and I'm here, in Dubai. So, no, she was a huge influence because I think she...
How did she manage at that point of time?
I don't know, really. I mean, sometimes when I think back on it, I think, how did she manage? It's pretty awesome that she did. But she was also chief librarian in a college at that point. So, but having said that, she quit. She took what's called voluntary retirement in India, where you quit because she knew that she had to manage 4 kids who could pretty much lose their way, right? For boys. My oldest brother just started working, so I think there was some amount of money coming in to
Okay.
run the house. But my dad's pension, and then she was working, so it
Hmm.
wasn't the easiest, but I
Hmm.
think we kind of got by. And I don't know how many of you have siblings, but when you're younger and younger, you kind of get hand-me-downs as you
Yeah.
go along. The shoes and the books and the so in India the system is the same textbooks stay like for about 10 years, so you don't really have to buy new stuff, so it comes on. But yeah, she was quite a massive force, I would say, because a very strong lady.
Hmm.
May Allah give her Jannah.
I mean,
She's a very, very strong lady, and I think up to a point she could sort of control us,
hmm.
but then I think after a point she kind of let us do what we had to
Just be.
do. Yeah, because I remember when I was joining advertising, this was I think about 98 or so, a little before that. For her, it was like, what's advertising and what's a copywriter? Because nobody really knew about these
Yeah.
things those days. She said, you should do computers.
Hmm.
That's the thing everybody's
Y2K.
doing. Yeah. So for her, it was hard to fathom I would join advertising
Hmm.
at all, or what even that meant. Because my other brothers, they were the most studious lot, right? One's in marketing, one's in finance, and one's a chartered accountant, and I'm in advertising, right? So,
So
but
between the four of you, you have the entire business.
all locked up. Yeah, no, but kudos to her because she kind of took a chance on it, or I think she just figured out that there was something that I would figure out as I went along.
Hmm.
And as it went on, she kind of got a little bit more confident about what I was doing,
Hmm.
and stopped telling me to do computers after a while. So yeah, I mean, she was pretty strong.
Okay. The question that I asked a little earlier about what are you sad about?
I was thinking about it as I was sitting down. I was hoping like heck you wouldn't ask me when I was sitting there, but anyway, no, I think it's hard one because there's so many things that kind of tend to make you sad. But for me personally, I think it's not me as such, but I guess a commentary on how we've all become as a people, because there's so much of tragedy around us that we see, so many people in need of help, but we've kind of become desensitized to it. For us, it's another news item and another post on Facebook. I think the thing that makes me so sad is how much people can actually do to do something about these situations, but don't actually do much. So we'd love to share it, post it, everything, but too few people would love to get down and get their hands dirty to actually help. That I think makes me the most sad.
You have been in a very senior position with a lot of opportunities and everything, right? What was, how do you use that power uh, in a way that you're very proud of when you look back?
Um, in my profession, especially, and I suppose it's true of any other profession, I think the one thing that you do realize as you go up the ladder, if I can call that is you kind of have a responsibility to make sure that you can help people realize their true potential. Because somebody took a chance on me when they gave me a job. I mean, there was really no reason for that person to have that faith in me. For me, I think I personally make it my duty to see everyone who comes through the agency who's looking for a job at that level. I have to make sure that I sit with them and I spend time with them and I try to see if there is real talent that can come on board. Because it's too easy to turn people away when you're up there because you're kind of there already, but you can tend to forget sometimes that you were there at one point
Hmm.
looking for that break. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, to
Hmm.
be able to, within the team that I have or within people who want to look for a job or looking for a job, to give them the chance,
Hmm.
to see if they can also make it big.
Hmm.
They can also do something that's significant. And it's hard sometimes. It's a terrible thing to say it's hard because I think it's a duty that everybody should do, but it's hard with our own day to day. We're so caught up with our own lives that
Hmm.
sometimes it's really hard to be able to see that what somebody just wants to do is to be able to show you their work or a chance. Or I've had people come in my career to say we don't even want to get paid, we just want to work to show you what we can do. And that's kind of sort of empowering at some point to look
Hmm.
at, because you go like, man, you don't know what this kid is capable of.
Yeah.
You might be the next Steve Jobs, you might be anything, but if they didn't get that chance, if somebody didn't take that chance with them, you'd never know. And I'm pretty sure there are so many people in the world, not just advertising, who probably have that story to tell. They could do something if they were given the chance.
When you see a spark, how do you identify it? And
Uh,
yeah,
for
because there's nothing for
yeah,
somebody who is coming
yeah,
new, fresh.
yeah.
And what is that spark that you look for?
It's a very interesting question, because I mean, I'd like to answer that question not from a perspective of advertising, because I guess you're asking me how you would identify or recognize the spark in somebody who hasn't even started, right? Um, I personally tend to look for attitude. To me, that really scores above everything else, because talent is something that is there and it can be nurtured and developed and so on. I like to think that you can never really supplement or substitute attitude. If somebody's coming in and you feel that there is enthusiasm, there's this desire to do something and commitment to it, you can feel that in a person, right? And this person doesn't take no for an answer easily. Usually, people who, in my experience, and I'm sure it's different for everybody, the people who have been most successful that I've seen in my life have refused to take no for an answer. They come back with more and come back with more. So what I mean by that is, if I were to be interviewing somebody at a entry level, I sometimes tend to tell them no, just to see if they are going to go away or they're just going to come back. And the best ones come back. They keep coming back. They don't give up. They write to you and say, so what about this? And what about this? That's the thing that I kind of look for, because you know that that's the attitude that will keep them going.
Hmm. Lovely. I mean, this you can apply for everything actually.
I suppose so. I mean, I can't speak for other industries, but certainly in the creative field, if I may say so, it's really hard, because rejection is the toughest thing to deal with,
Hmm.
right? Because we are dealing with a product that's intangible. That's the thing with art and creativity, because it's subjective, right? Some people like something, some people don't like something. So you're constantly having to face a no. That's hard. That's
So what is the
really
biggest rejection you have faced?
me. I mean, a lot. Starting with my own life about finding a job. I mean, most people would look at the work you did and they would go like, "That's not up to scratch," and that I think is hard, because it's easy to criticize. It's easy to tell somebody that this is not working. But I think the harder thing to do is to be able to show them how it can work.
Hmm.
And for me, I think that was my biggest problem when I meet people, or I met people when I was trying to find a job, who rejected you because A, they didn't have the time or they couldn't be bothered, but they never really spent time telling me how it could be better,
Yeah.
how you could do something much better.
So wouldn't you be better off not working for such people?
At that time, you didn't have the maturity to understand that. But now, yes, I would say, and this is the advice I give my own, team, is life's too short and work is too short for you to be working for somebody who's not good. And I don't mean that from a professional level, but I'm talking about as a human being, right? Because you really need to be able to work for people who are good people,
Hmm.
because they bring out the best in you, without a doubt.
Yeah.
You definitely need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Two questions. One personal. People will laugh, but you said you moved to Malaysia in 2000.
Singapore.
Singapore.
Singapore, sorry, 2000. And before that, you spoke about 7 countries that you spent 4 or 5 years in each. So I'm not going to ask about your age, but what is your secret to look so young?
I don't know actually, because it's funny you asked that, because I was just having a conversation with my son recently, and he had this observation, because he'd seen his uncles, my brothers. All of us are younger looking than we actually are. We are. I mean, it's just the way it is. And then there's a
Not like Photoshop already in real.
which is possible. There's obviously a lot of help we get from the cosmetic world, but I like to think that I am younger looking than I am actually, and so is the case with most of my brothers. When you see them, they're all like a younger.
Okay, so back genetics.
I think it is just that probably.
Now the serious question. The creative room, just like the news room, it's really on every day, whatever your outcome now is obsolete already. You need to always bring more. It's all about competition. It's all about getting awards. And agencies are fighting for awards, playing politics for awards. What was different in Singapore than the others? Why you said in your words that I wasn't happy, and then you said a danger shift happens in Singapore. You went there with all the experience and your work. What was different there?
Okay, so few parts to that which are interesting. One is obviously what's different about Singapore as opposed to, let's say, a Dubai or an India. I think the big difference then and now is in Singapore, you have more of a sensibility which is international. The work that you see and the things that you do are a little bit more international than, let's say, related to a particular culture or a place. Like in India, the work is very driven by what is Indian, right? So it's Bollywood influence and so on and so forth. I'd like to believe here we have a very thick, very strong Arab culture that drives everything. I'm still getting used to it because it's just been a year here. But in Singapore, it's a little bit more cosmopolitan in that way. It's a little bit more general. And for that reason, your work tends to compete better on an international arena. And I'm moving now into the second part of the question of awards. It's true. Agencies and clients themselves are quite hungry for recognition and awards. So they push a lot to be able to perform at the highest level. From that aspect as well, Singapore does have kind of the edge because they've been, as a country, they've always been on the forefront of everything that's cutting edge. They want to be the best. One could argue that Dubai wants to be the best as well, but it's a bit different. The sensibility is a bit different because I know we're being recorded, so I'm going to say all nice things about Dubai.
Say was the advertising business in terms of clients driven by certain nationalities and certain markets. So here more Lebanese managers approving the artwork. They're more international managers because the client is what decides what goes on online. You might give 5 options of creative work. The client might simply reject it all. Is it a nationality having its influence on the creative work?
See, I cannot say no to that question because yes, the nationality everywhere, not just about here being Lebanese or it being more predominantly Chinese in Singapore and then Indian in India. Yes, it does have an impact, but that also is an easy answer because I don't think it's the full story. What really impacts the work is exposure from both sides. In my experience, clients who have been quite exposed to international work and who have worked in different places get that sensibility really well. They appreciate good work and they can see where you're going with it. Generally speaking, although I don't want to typecast it, generally speaking, when you see clients who have lived in one region all their lives or have worked in one market all their lives, tend to think from one perspective alone. So it does then make the work in a certain way. And that's the difference in Singapore because you get people from all over the world. You have CMOs from all over the world. You have marketing managers from all over the world. Here, still, like you said, is predominantly dominated by the Arab world. So yes, it is a bit different from that aspect. There is truth in it.
I'm very intrigued by something that you just now said, and it's something that a lot of people actually say, where they typecast nations. Singapore is like this, Dubai is like that. You think of the most romantic city, you'll talk about Paris. I mean, the branding that goes into it and how we perceive, but it's not a person. It's a complete ecosystem, and how is that created, number one, and how that results in so many other results that happens.
How would become an asset, if I may add to this?
Huh?
How would become an asset to a particular city that takes this kind of branding and really sell it to the world?
Yeah, I
nation
mean,
branding, right? I mean,
no,
yeah.
it's probably one of the most valuable questions that nations and countries are asking themselves as we speak, because that is so true of a country. I can only speak for two, Singapore and a little bit about Dubai. India, not that much because I didn't really spend the better part of my life working there. It's in Singapore. I think if I speak from a Singapore's perspective, it's a very, very small country if you know Singapore in terms of size to begin with. It's about 40 square kilometers from one end to the other. It's not really big, but it's more, uh,
So, what are the
I
adjectives
suppose.
you would use to describe Singapore? For let's say,
Okay, there's one word that I think sums up Singapore totally. It's efficiency.
okay, so
Everything is efficient.
no other city in the world is efficient. Japan is efficient.
It is, but not to the extent to which Singapore is what I think.
Okay.
Not to the extent, because just to give you a little bit of an idea of Singapore, although that I don't know whether it's relevant for everybody, the city had nothing to offer the
Yeah.
world
Yeah.
because it's a small island which broke away from Malaysia. Very soon they realized that the only thing they can offer the world is efficiency, right? Which translates as it's the best place to do business, because if you're a business person, what you want is less roadblocks. What you want is a seamless system that works, because at the end of the day you want to make money. Singapore offers that across the board.
And there's no other country that does it as
In
well, I
my
think, right?
experience, I mean, I haven't worked in that many,
Yeah, but
but I think Japan is a great example of that. But yes and no.
hmm,
One could argue that UK probably wanted to be that at some point. London would have been that. Hong Kong tried to be that.
hmm,
But there's the other side of it, which is, how much does the whole country embody that ethos?
yeah.
Because in Singapore,
And how do they manage that? How does the
yeah,
whole country manage
so
that?
now I'm going to step into a little bit of dangerous territory as we go with Singapore, but I can, yeah, yeah. But it's good to understand that Singapore is run like you would run a company. When we were living in Singapore, we would always say, and people know this, we would say it's actually a big company.
Hmm.
You have a CEO at the top, and it's run as a profit center, and everybody benefits, and it's run as an efficient company would be run. And that's important because in any good company, as you all would know, if everybody had that same goal,
Hmm.
although your approaches may be different, but your end point was the same, you are going to succeed,
Yes.
right? As opposed to everybody in the company has slightly different goals. Like I think I don't agree with the boss, right? What he's going to do, I don't agree with so on. That's recipe for chaos.
Hmm.
So I'd like to think that a lot of countries start off with a great vision. They want to achieve that. I mean, I can't think of any country that sets off to say we're going to fail.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to succeed like a company.
But I have my way.
Yeah, they don't have, I think what they failed to do, if I can say that, what Singapore did really well was instill that sense of purpose and pride with everybody.
How?
Because if you're that small a country, there's only one way to go. Either you're going to disappear or you're going to succeed. I think when you work in Singapore and you talk to Singaporeans, they have immense pride in the country. They have immense pride in the
But
country.
Singapore is also full of a lot of expats who come and live there, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And they also imbibe the same pride.
Absolutely.
How is that happening?
Because when you live there, you realize that this really adds to the quality of your life. This is what you want to do. You want to work in a system which is efficient, extremely fair across the board. Because, I mean, I'd love to talk about this part of it if you can indulge me for 30 seconds. Because one of the things that I think is unique to Singapore is the fact that there's a sense of fairness across the board, across citizens. It doesn't matter where you are or who you are, the same laws apply to you as they apply to anybody else. And that's very empowering when you live there.
Yeah, I mean, this is slightly different off the topic we're seeing now.
Sure, sure.
This is more of industry driven. Like advertising is more of a creative, gives a creative angle to the company, and you have a lot of boundaries that you can cross. But is it at the same time data driven? Like how is data, like as in
Wow.
you talk in terms of the numbers in a company? So how do you measure your advertising as a contribution to the profits or the revenues that you make?
You mean to the clients or to us?
To your client?
We have a pretty simple system where when we work with clients, we work with two models. We either work with what we call a retainer model, which means a client pays you X amount of money for a year for all the advertising that we do, or we work on a project model, which means every single job that we do is costed. So we have a rate card, we have a time that we bill to the client, and so on and so forth.
If
Does that
client
answer?
likes your idea, then you're paid.
So if it's a retainer, if it's a retainer
No
model,
matter if client does well in the market.
oh, do you mean it
It's not
affects
profit
us?
linked.
Ah, no, it is not. It doesn't. It's our duty to make sure that the client makes more and more money, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to give us from that more and more money. No, they don't.
There's a very old quote that I heard. Uh, 50% of all money spent on advertising is a waste, but the problem is you don't know which 50%.
That's true.
I-
Well,
Is it still true or is it changing these days?
uh, okay. I think it's a little bit more than 50%, to be really, really honest. And that's only because of like back to the gentleman's question. I think it's kind of on both sides of the fence, because let's just go back to advertising as such. You guys all see ads, and some of you like some, and some of you don't like some, and you will also know people who you like something, but somebody else whom you know really well didn't like it. It could even be your wife or your husband, right? The reason for that is because at the end of it, it's very subjective.
Hmm.
So it's very hard for somebody to look at something and go, "That's a good idea." You don't know. I mean, you have no idea with any honesty whether this is going to really do what you set out to do. That was up to, let's say, 10 years ago, where you kind of believed the agency when it said, "This is a great piece of work." Right? And if it didn't happen, you said, stupid consumers, they just don't know what they want," and so on and so forth. But now, the last 10 years with data has kind of changed a lot of things with the internet boom and digital coming on. Now you can actually measure certain things with a consumer, like engagement rates. And you can actually drill it right down to say this piece of communication with this picture had this influence on somebody. So it is becoming a science. When we started this journey, at least when I started this journey, it was more an art than a science. But now science has crept into it to such an extent that you can actually do it. So back to your question, I think the 50% is decreasing.
Hmm.
Now it's become very measurable,
Hmm.
scarily so. Because why I say scarily so is because now the client can hold you responsible for it working or not working,
Hmm.
and can really account for every dollar and dirham that you spend. Literally, you can.
Yeah.
So it's become more accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gaurav, Paul and Mani. I used to be in the trade that we are in about 15 years ago. I spent about 13 years in the business. Some of it in India, some of it here. I have always felt that advertising as a vocation is on a downward trip, because a lot of people who set up agencies sold them to people like Martin Scorsese, who now sold his 400 companies and moved on. Just today, I forwarded something to a group of advertising people. It says there's a sucker born every minute, and this guy's pointing out to snake oil. So advertising has been. There are practitioners who made their money like that. In your view, advertising agencies, in my view, they are a dying lot, because a lot of consulting companies are doing what advertising agencies had to offer. Do you think advertising is on a downward trend,
Yeah. I mean, that's a question that,
especially with social media and
yeah.
all of this? We are
That's why you're here, right?
No, so that's a question that, to be really honest, we ask ourselves in advertising as well, right? But no, I mean, the simple answer to that is no, it's not dying by any chance. And that's a P.T. Barnum quote, by the way, the sucker born every minute, right? The thing is, it's at the heart of it, it's a creative field, right? And if you look at any creative industry, be it writing, painting, any of these, filmmaking, all of these through the history of their sort of curve, if you will, go through some kind of change and an upheaval and renaissance. To only be born is something new. Otherwise, you'll never get something new till you sort of destroy what you already have. That seems to be a necessary thing with creativity. You have to be brave enough to understand that advertising over the last 50 years, I'm talking about from an agency perspective, has reached a place where it needs to be reborn again as something else. None of us know what that new birth is going to be like. I mean, back to your thing about consultancies coming in like PwC or Accenture and so on and so forth. Trust me, they don't know anything either. They don't know anything. What they're bringing to the table is rigor and science and hoping that it will work. So they are busy hiring people from ad agencies to join them. But I think that the next 10 years is going to see the change in advertising. So let's take the word advertising out. Let's just use the word communication. That's a better word, right? So we are seeing communication transform in media all around, be it a news channel, be it what you're seeing on the web, the way news is reported, the way movies are made, the way stories are told. It's changing rapidly. That is affecting advertising as an industry. And I think you're going to see a massive change in a new model of an agency emerge in the future. That's the more interesting conversation. It's not that advertising is dying. I think it's just being reborn as something else.
And do you think that there will be a lot of millennial hiring happening because of this?
It's this is
Inevitable?
yeah, this is a weird thing for me to say, but it's a young man's profession. It's getting younger and younger,
Younger and younger.
as we go. So definitely is the millennials.
So your looks is helping.
Yeah, I'm still camouflaging everything and pretending to be young. No, but it is definitely the millennials are coming in big time. They're really big time.
Yeah. Yes.
The lady here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen you have been appointed 3 times for the jury of the Cannes Lions.
Yeah.
And talking about the culture, I mean, would you put more of the Singapore thoughts or the Indian vibration into your decision? And what was your biggest challenge when you were appointed as such?
When I was
The judge at the council.
when I was the jury, you mean? Oh, okay, that's a really interesting question. Firstly, I mean, to just give you an aspect of how that works in Cannes. So we are about 15 to 16 people in any given Cannes jury, and they're selected from all over the world. The judging process itself is quite rigorous. But to answer your question, do I bring a sensibility from Singapore or India to it? Inevitably, because that is my background. Wow.
What
I have to
influenced
be
you more?
really honest, I think it's Singaporean.
Yeah.
I have to, I mean, I can't, I'm just thinking about it myself and going like, yes, it is Singaporean when I look at it. Very little Indian. I don't think I bring that sensibility to the work. No. In Cannes, I think one particular jury that I judged in, we had, these are names that I'm not going to share, but we had the head of jury, who was not me, there's a person from Brazil. He was very political about supporting a piece of work that was from Brazil. And he shouldn't be, because he's the jury president, he should be quite neutral, but it wasn't the case, because, you know, these awards are worth something. So he pushed right from the start for that piece of work to be up there. And in the end, we do award silver, gold, and bronze, gold, silver, bronze, but we also have a Grand Prix, which is the best of the best work in that category. He was actually pushing for that work to be the Grand Prix. And we had a divided jury. So we
12
kind
angry
of...
men?
Yeah, sorry?
12 angry men?
12
No
angry men, totally.
Can-
We had a completely split jury right in the middle, and he couldn't vote because he was jury president. But the man made us vote 3 times all over again and again. And this is about like 2 a.m. in the morning. We're still undecided on what it should be. I think finally somebody broke down in the jury.
So
and
3 times it
voted.
kept being
Exactly half. It kept coming down to half. Right? To the extent at which the organizers had to come in the room and say, guys, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Make up your mind. But he wouldn't let go. He wouldn't let go. And someone broke. I don't know who it is.
And it went that way.
It went that way. And for me, it was disappointing because that was not the work that really deserved to be there, but I think he wore them down to get the decision. So that I think was very challenging for me to see.
And since then, you're no longer famous in Brazil.
Sorry?
You're no longer famous in Brazil.
No.
In
But
Brazil.
he himself is a very big name in Brazil, so he's a huge name in Brazil. He didn't really need to do it, but then nobody could figure out
It was
why.
his work? No.
No, it was from his country, so you could kind of guess it. There was patriotism attached to
Okay.
it, perhaps.
Yeah.
Did you add on to any extra qualification or you share experience?
Yeah, I mean this profession you got to be current all the time. So I've deep dived a bit into the last 1.5 years has been a lot into digital and social. So I did a course with Google, which was about 7 months just to get up to speed with everything Google and everything digital. And I have spent time delving into technology and seeing what can be new because it's changing all the time. But yes, it's really important to add.
Did you add into a basic qualification like being a
So I am currently pursuing an MBA at this stage in my life. I am pursuing an MBA, but that's not necessarily because it will impact my work. It's because I just want to do it.
Do you see yourself doing this for the rest of your life, or?
Advertising? I,
You might still remember,
yeah. No, but interestingly, I think what's fascinated me. I'm just being very, very honest, guys. So don't tell my boss this if you ever meet him. But interestingly, I think what I'm fascinated by now is training, because I think I love to be able to show people or bring the best out of people and show them what they could do, because I think that's fascinating me more and more. I mean, I do that as part of my job in my office because we have teams, but I think I would love to stretch out to, we have this saying in advertising that everybody is creative, which I actually disagree with because my philosophy, if you will, is everybody was creative. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
I
yes.
have a question. I don't want to be sound critic here, but it's just imagine me as a layman in a couch sitting and watching a Indian ads. So what I've observed over the time is there's a certain emotional angle that if you put to an advertising brand, so does it make a more impact? Like if you target certain society, certain sectors of the society. Suppose you put a army or you put the orphan child or something. You give that emotional angle to a brand, and it makes an impact. So how does you take this? Like how do you have certain bias in the sectors that you choose when you
No, yeah, I think that is true up to a point. There are certain products or brands that lend themselves to emotional connections better, and some don't. Like, for instance, it's really hard to be emotional about a bank, right? Because,
About a
but
bank?
they still do
yeah,
it.
About a bank?
They still
yeah,
do it.
because
get very
people,
emotional.
sorry, is there any bank employees here? I'm sorry, no, I didn't mean to offend anybody.
Women said you can.
We can get negative emotions,
Yeah,
right?
but why I say that is because you start off from a point where not many people love a bank. Yeah, I mean maybe they do. I don't know, but then there are some products that you generally gravitate towards more emotionally. So yes, you do in the profession when you get a brief from a client or when you're working on a brand, you do tend to think emotionally. But overall, I mean, because we are human beings, at the end of the day, we connect with each other on an emotional level better than we do on a rational level. The rational level is just an entry point into a conversation. So, as an example, I could hear you say that you work for an XYZ company as I was listening to all of you speak, I'm so and so. But that's still for me not as emotional as if I were to spend 20 minutes with you talking about your life. Then I connect. And if we have shared experiences, we connect even better. So we tend to gravitate towards emotion very easily as human beings. But if your question is, do we exploit that in advertising? 100%. To the hilt. We do it to the hilt.
For you,
To the last
Shamelessly.
sentence.
for
Yeah.
you as in particular, you like hierarchy-wise, is the emotional or funny?
For me,
Yeah, emotional.
emotion,
Or
yeah,
funny as a.
what I like more, see, I mean, this is going to sound technical, but humor is an emotion too. Yeah, I mean, you think about, but I think what you mean by that is the sad bit, right? Connecting with it. I think I favor humor more Because sad is
Humor as in the mentor sense.
yeah. I mean, it's irreverent and it's funny, but that's also emotional,
Can
right?
you share one you remember?
For a funny ad.
A humor ad.
Oh, humor. Oh, plenty of them actually.
Then
I
there you
mean,
go.
yeah.
Share three.
I think for me it would be Fox, for instance, Fox TV, right? They had a website. This is many years ago when they were launching it. They were quite irreverent about what they were doing. So they had weird things like anything could make news. So they had TV ads where they showed you the most bizarre things and said that this could be news on Fox, which was true at that time, right? Because that's how it went. So that was incredibly funny when you actually saw that. We did something in Gray for DirecTV, which is like Do here. And DirecTV wanted people to switch to cable. So they ran ads which are really funny where they said, what happens if you don't subscribe to cable? Right? So they went through a person's life. They said, if you don't get cable, for instance, right, you're going to be sitting at home wondering what to do. When you sit at home wondering what to do, sooner or later you step out to get a drink, right? When you get a drink, you run into this unsavory character next to you and you befriend that character. You don't know what the heck the character is up to. Before you know it, you end up in the house with this character, and it goes on like that. It paints a picture of you start by what happens if you don't get direct cable, and this guy ends up on the road in a ditch drunk somewhere, beaten up by people. It's really nice to watch. So again, it's really good use of humor to deliver a product. So humor is tough to do, but it's really good when you do it.
Has any campaigns backfired in a
Oh,
sense?
plenty.
Like,
And how do you face a client after that?
Oh, you mean
became a success. Like you turn.
Come back to
It's like
you mean a brand or a campaign?
like campaign in a sense. Like it was intended.
Okay,
for
both.
something, but
Brand
it became
first,
success
campaign
in
next.
something else. Is there-
Brands, plenty of brands have lost their way. I mean, products have lost their way and resurfaced really, really well. I think
Which is the most famous one?
have lost and resurfaced again. No, Nokia still hasn't resurfaced. I mean, unfortunately, we'd hope they do.
Apple almost did, right? Apple almost lost.
Apple felt. I still feeling the heat from Samsung.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great example.
Which one?
So Maggie, Nestle, Maggie,
Yeah.
all of these brands are huge brands, but they have, because of unethical practices, they've kind of fallen down. But they've come back with good communication. So campaigns as such, I think once a campaign fails, it fails. It's very hard to resurrect a campaign because as human beings, we are quite unforgiving of mistakes of that sort.
Like
It's better.
unintended result, like possible.
Okay. Unintended result for a campaign. I think it's probably more to do with viral videos that you see. When a campaign goes viral, it's very hard to say that this is going to be a success. So you do something hoping that 10 people will like it or 100 people will like it. It can go global if it's really good. I don't know if all of you are following the Kiki phenomenon. Yeah. Now it won't be long before a brand does something with Kiki. I mean, but who would have thought Kiki would be a phenomenon, right? Brands do that too at times. They manage to come up with something that goes big time, but it's rare when it happens.
Yes, you must.
Yeah, I'm familiar with quite a lot of it, but I do have one question. Surprisingly, I haven't asked you yet. But what is the piece of work that you enjoyed the most or you're most proud of?
Okay.
It's a very tricky question, by the way.
Yeah.
She's trying to find something else.
What is the work that I'm most proud of? That in my entire career
Yeah.
so far. Wow.
Not just last week.
Not just last week. Well, I have to think a little bit about this. I think it is work that I did for FedEx in Singapore. It used to be a client with us in BBDO. It was a pretty ordinary brief that the client gave us, which is just to tell the world that they have the quickest service. But I think what I created with my partner, because my art partner was there with me, was something so spectacular. We didn't expect it again for it to be so successful. We have this organization called DN80, which is one of the best. It's like the Oscars of advertising, right? The best. It picked up more than 13 awards there,
Oh,
right? And went on to win in a lot of places. But the tragedy of it was, I mean, that's why I love that work so much. The downside to that was, I have to show you the work for it to make any sense. But okay, let me describe the work.
Describe,
If
yeah.
you're okay
Yeah.
if I describe the work. So you know what FedEx does. All of you know what
Yeah.
FedEx does. So this was a print campaign where, to show that FedEx delivered things really fast, me and my partner came up with this idea where, for instance, there's this person who's collapsed on the road, right? And there's somebody trying to resuscitate them, get them up. And you have a FedEx truck standing next to this person, and the door is down, and inside the FedEx truck is an ambulance, right? So it managed to deliver an ambulance to that spot really quickly.
Okay.
And then we did another one where there is a house on fire. And
Did you do the DHL one also, which was inside
No,
a FedEx?
I didn't do that. And we did one with fire, and then we did one where there's a riot that's happening. You know, people are throwing stuff and all that, and there is a FedEx truck standing with the door down, and there's a police car in it. So we did a few of
Cheeky.
these, yeah, and it did really well. But the downside of it, which is probably the more interesting part of the story, is after it ran, we were called up by the regional client, who should be unnamed forever, to say, take the campaign out, withdraw the campaign. So we were lost. Sorry?
Maybe the expectation raised very high.
No,
You're
the
getting the government services. You're saying FedEx is faster than the government.
you see, I mean, that's the strange thing about advertising. I can be here all night and you guys will never know why, but I'll tell you why. So he wouldn't tell us why for a long time, and we probed because it was a pretty big deal for us. This campaign was doing really well around the world and people were talking about it. That was the year that the Americans invaded Iraq, right? Desert Storm, does anybody remember that? Yeah, and FedEx planes were being used to ferry the troops and emergency equipment to Iraq. And this campaign felt like it's going to get negative press because of that, because we were also transporting police trucks. And so he said it cannot be, because the client can get a lot of backlash, and we had to pull it out. So it was
Somebody had the foresight.
I mean, we from
From
advertising, we said,
yeah.
no, it can't be. I mean, come on, you can't do this, because you're exactly, and this is your ticket to fame. Yeah.
But still you won awards for it.
No, we couldn't take any of the awards. We were told, like, so DN80 we had to call up DN80 and say, we have to give this back. And I remember the conversation, because I was sitting with my boss, and the guy from DN80 in London said, are you guys insane? Do you know what this means? Because 13 is a massive number of awards to win with
Yeah.
DN80. So, but we said, no, we have to. The client doesn't want to support it.
So that became a news by itself.
It was really big. It was really, really big. But it's sweet and sour.
Yeah.
It's sweet, but that's what I said when I started. I think that the creative profession is such where you need to have the ability to take a no from the weirdest places. But that's the way it is.
Lovely. Happy with the answer? Lovely. Thank you.
No,
Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the history of it.
Yeah.
Certain aspects.
Yeah. Even he didn't know, so it was a good question.
Yeah.
I have a question for your wife.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Sahil.
Hi, Saira. Saira, when you wanted to get married, or your parents wanted
Yes.
you to get married,
I know this.
and they found
Yes.
this gentleman,
Yes.
and he was in
This
advertising.
is an interesting
And
question.
you did not know what advertising was, but he was in advertising. You may not have known what is advertising.
Only in my family.
So that's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
And there was an old campaign by Rolling Stones about
Yeah.
perception and reality.
Yes.
So in your days of courtship, what was perception and what was reality?
I'm very interested.
Lie, okay?
So, we also met at a very interesting time. That was when 9/11 happened.
Ah.
It was a very odd time, because incidentally my father was sick, and he passed away 3 weeks after we got engaged. So our courtship was, I think, Shabaz was with me through that every minute. That was sort of, I think, really what brought us together. But yeah, initially I do remember when we were talking, everybody would ask me, what is director? What do they do? You know, I think they imagine somebody with a notebook and an eraser and he had to sit and erase pencil lines. But they really didn't know. So we asked his mom and she told us, he's a consultant. Because she had no idea. If she ever had an idea about what work he does. Consultants generally cover it. So yeah, so that was how. But I think it was we got married. It had a lot more to do with personality, character. Um, yeah, we just related with each other.
But she had no idea what.
I had no idea.
But I will add some.
Paid off.
I will add something to it that she's not telling you,
Oh,
right? The one thing that my father-in-law or somebody in the family asked was, "Is this a stable job?" Yeah. So she actually wrote to me saying, so I was really funny. I thought I was being funny, but I think they took it seriously. I said, no, I sit all day with my feet up on the table with a pad in my hand and thinking of ideas. I could get fired anytime. That's what I wrote back to her. I thought I was being funny, but I don't think it went down very well on the other side. But anyway, but that was the truth. That's what you do.
the second thing was that my father was a doctor as well. Knew his dad. So again, very academic family. Everybody is a scientist, a doctor or engineer. Everybody is in science. Nobody is in
Advertising.
So they were like very fond of. Can you please tell him to do his MBA?
That's not the reason why I'm doing it. That's not the reason, but that is true. They did ask me, do you think you'll pursue higher studies? I said no.
There's pre-qualification. There's like post-qualification.
Exactly. I had to be honest. I said no. I think I disappointed her dad completely with that answer. But I said, I don't want to study anymore. But that's the reason I got into advertising in the first place.
If you're advertising, you should advertise your answers better than the director.
Yeah, that is true. But I still managed to.
You seem to have enjoyed that illusion in the family.
Exactly.
Not knowing what your profession is.
Can't be helped.
2001, you said you tried to get into advertising?
No,
You
I got into advertising when about 94, 93.
94, 93.
But 2000 was Singapore.
Okay.
That was a big change.
2001 was when I was trying to get into advertising as a copywriter.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but
Didn't make it. Lucky you.
still.
1994, I was trying to ride my bicycle with 2 wheels.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I went to Bangalore, attempted some.
Before that, it was
One wheel.
4 wheels bicycle. You know the 4 wheels.
We're coming to the end of the first session, first segment. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have a small tradition over here where you pick a card and you just reflect on what it says.
Okay.
I would have loved to have this conversation go on for more because there's so much of stories in there, I'm sure. But just pick one card, and before you reflect on what it says, this was, by the way, designed by Karthik Shiva that I was talking to you about, the guy who is the CEO of Ogilvy in Singapore. Yeah. So these are a collection of his quotes, everything.
Alright.
Everyone is a separate quote on it.
Okay.
And I'd like to take from the audience, what are your reflections? What did you take away from today?
What I will teach.
Okay.
The concept of, because you spent many years in a field that is highly competitive with the new generation. Every day a creative director is born and challenging yourself, yet you are able to prove yourself. And the reason I think you are regenerating yourself every day. You bring a new person every day. You are reborn every day. And this is something I will teach.
Thank
In
you.
order to sustain on the long term of life, I cannot just be circulated with what I am. I need to rebrand myself, represent myself, reborn eventually.
Thank you.
One line that I think that hit me was the line you said that it's easier to criticize, but it's more harder to make the things better. We do criticize everything, but do we actually do anything to make the things better is the harder part.
True.
The best thing I liked from Chennai when you went to Singapore without any pre-appointments or any,
Yeah. Crazy.
it's a big challenge, and 15 days time, you know that 15 days is the only thing away. And so anybody knows, for me me, it's a great thing actually. So you are taking the stand that inspired me. You can take new things, but only thing you should have is confidence.
And a portfolio.
And a portfolio.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I was reminded of a concept many years ago when people said, what is power? Power is to bring something from idea to execution quickly. And in advertising, it happens all the time. So you have an idea, you convince people, and it gets into execution. And you're able to make a multi-billion-dollar brand out of it. So advertising is a powerful
It is.
profession.
I like the way when you want to test the attitude of people, if they want to give up, you reject them, and if they can come back, you feel that they are listening.
It
I
is.
like this idea.
It's not a very popular thing to do, but it's a good thing to do.
And also, I like the concept that we all used to be creative, but because we have a lot of, when we grow up, we have a lot of knowledge and fears, because, so maybe that's why we lose this creativity, but everyone
Possible.
can be.
Can be 100%.
We are,
100%.
yeah.
With all the know-how, I think the best part was what's your goal, which you said is giving it back to the society or training, get people more trained with whatever you can give it back to them.
Yeah, that is true, and that oddly enough is the card I picked up.
It
Can I
usually
read this
is.
out?
It's a magic card usually.
Can
Yeah,
I
please
read
do.
this out? Because
It's always
This it
yeah,
always resonates
this
with
is
us.
exactly that. It says business matters only if it is a force for good. Is your business a force for good? Enough to think a long time about. No, it's true. I mean, a business matters only if it is a force for good. Is your business a force for good? Is the question. It's good. True.
This gentleman Karthik Shiva, he does a 3-day strategy masterclass in Malaysia, and one of the main questions that he teaches to all the strategy, the entrepreneurs who come to learn strategy is one simple question. He says, answer this: does your business matter? If it doesn't, make it matter.
True. Very true.
Yeah? So focus everything around to make it matter.
Very true.
Thank you so much for a
Thank you
wonderful
for having us.
session.